Well, the novel that launched him into being accepted as a recognized author in the eyes of the public and the critics.
Right. So it's not like a real novel. It's basically a short story, right? Um,
Yeah, it's an interesting concept that it's been seldomly done in writing because I do believe it takes a lot of effort to write the continuous flow of the thoughts of someone, like going throughout the day, how they feel, what they perceive, and how they perceive it. The only other example I can think of is something like, even if it's way longer and way more difficult to get through, is the Ulysses by Joyce, which is the day in the life of a person seen like moment by moment. In this short story, it jumps a little bit, but you can still get the feeling of the whole day of this schoolgirl. That's why it's called Schoolgirl, and it's sort of very interesting how it's written and how the short story unfolds, because it mixes the events as they happen and the emotions and the thoughts that the main protagonist telling in first person goes through at the same time, plus some memories here and there.
do you think I mean, it's pretty short, so
Hmm.
but still, do you think that Dazai did a good job of like convincing you, or like that this is a school girl or whatever? Because I saw some reviews kind of complaining about how like a school girl, like that, maybe it's the translation, but like that there's you know uh, like a mixture of of how a schoolgirl would actually speak, like, or at least if it's a stereotypical one, ugh, she's so ugly or whatever. But then there will also be very verbose words in
Hmm.
there, which like
Well, to be honest, I think it's sort of justified. This girl seems to be interested in reading a lot of books. So, and that she takes away always, like from the last book she read, she tries to take away all the lessons she can before dropping and, and learning all the new lessons from the new book. But maybe her vocabulary is so verbose and so expansive, let's say, because of her many readings.
mm,
So I'm not saying it's perfect, but I do believe it gives you the feeling of a young lady on the verge of adulthood. She's forced, in a sense, to the verge of adulthood because she's the one who has to take care of a distressed mother. Her older sister has moved out of the household, and the father, well, spoiler, the father died. So she has to take care of a lot of extra things because her mother is always busy. She has to, well, make ends meet. So she's working, she's organizing things for other families. In the story, we see towards the end, like how the mother has to entertain a family from, I think, from a different city. I think it's in the same province, but they are from a different city, and she even follows them for a small trait of the journey. So I do believe it gives you a feeling of. I do believe the story is set in the 1930s because it was written in 1939, and this one I think is just set a few years before that year. So
they
it's
mentioned the war.
describing.
Yeah,
Hmm?
I think.
Yeah, so I think it's describing a different time as well, like the mentality of the people and how they spoke. Probably it was a bit different, even in their youth.
Yeah, yeah. I think that they mentioned the war, but I don't know. Maybe yeah, it could be the first World War, the second one. But it probably set in the 1930s because that's what I have read anyway. But um, okay.
Yeah, because they are talking about a war at one point, and it's for sure it's not World War Two. So I do believe it's some of the small scale, well, not small scale, but less known wars that were going on between Japan and I think at the time it was in China and Korea.
So I saw a clip which I also shared on Discord, and I'll put it in the description of this video as well later. Um, it's um, it's by a channel called Sky Voids, and it's called Schoolgirl by Osamu Dazai anime Watamote. So basically, it's like the person. It's a girl who runs this channel. I don't know what her age is, if it's an actual schoolgirl or not. But anyhow, she recorded, and it's in English. She recorded herself reading the last bit. What was it? Let me have a look. She read the last bit of, like, was there anything? Uh, was Yeah, was there nothing but to leave us or whatever? Like we have measles or something. What she said. What the schoolgirl says.
Towards the
Yeah,
end, yes.
yeah. So
It's like complaining about the adults and the adult world in general, just saying keep going, but you're actually not directing us there. You're just trying to inspire us without saying anything of meaning, without giving any direction.
yeah. So
Just towards the end.
yeah, I think that this video they are put so there. I hear a little bit of echo. Um, I don't know. Should be yeah. It just comes and goes like that. Um, like I would say that, like, even though it's just called Schoolgirl, I kind is it really about, like, uh, the typical schoolgirl, or more like a depressed schoolgirl, I would say.
Yeah, I think he's trying to like the story is trying to epitomize a little bit how girls would have felt around that time in Japan. Let's not forget that at the time the author he was 30 years old when he wrote the story, and he was just I think it was just after um, he tried to join the Communist Party, but later he got like fed up with the institutions themselves. He felt like it wasn't going to solve much. So this has been written like 7 8 years after that, and I think he's trying to also describing the decline of society through the eyes of this girl that is soon to become a young woman, and she feels trapped in a sense. She doesn't know how to go on, and I think the title makes sense to be titled Schoolgirl because that's the position she's being placed into by society at the time. She's a schoolgirl in the eyes of everyone. That's a role in a sense. I'm not saying we need to agree with maybe with the political undertones of the novel, but the title it's fitting.
Okay, so basically, he was 30 years old when he wrote about, um, what was it, like, little white roses embroidered on Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only weird thing. Only weird thing. Honestly, everything else seems like a good, honest, and even successful attempt at looking at the world as it was in those years through the eyes of of a child, of a schoolgirl. There are a little bit of autobiographical elements in it because before changing his name, when he was still called, his name was Shuji. Was it? Yeah, he had to take care of his mother who was ill, and his father was often away because he was part of the House of Peers, which is like one of the institutions of Japan. It was the same as the Duma in Tsarist Russia, pretty much. So there is a little bit. I think he's trying also to recall his past and how he felt, and try to look at the situation of Japan in the late 1930s, and how it would feel for a woman to be in that, well, a girl to be in that situation, to be expected to grow into a woman in those times.
Yeah, I think at some point, like he talks about, um, or rather, it's the schoolgirl talking about like, that her only talent is to be able to steal someone else's experience
Yeah, when she's talking about,
and then recreate it.
uh,
Yeah,
mhm,
which is kind of what I guess kind of what Dazai is doing, because obviously he never was a schoolgirl or something,
mhm. Yeah, there
right?
is a little bit of meta narrative in that sense. That it's like he's looking at himself and looking at what he's trying to do with this novel, and looking how the novel reflects in parts also his own rules, just pretending to be a girl when he's not, of course.
Um, so, yeah, like, um, did you feel like there were sections which were like too much of i- which were more like an essay than a story? Like,
Yeah, here and there maybe, but if, in all honesty, there are those times when a small thought, when you're thinking about something in your head, and if you were to actually think about what you're thinking, it could be expanded into a very long soliloquy in your head, like a very long monologue going on. In a sense, you condense it for yourself because you cannot slow down time. But sometimes, if you think back at what you were thinking, in a sense, it can be way more.
hmm, um, okay, I guess,
I'm not saying that it's a mute point. Far from it. Sometimes, yeah, there is like the part when she's describing how the reviews and the essays and some overviews on the writers behind it, they seem a little bit strange, like a bit too long, but it's still, I did not feel that they were too much. A bit distracting maybe, but not so distracting that they seem jarring or didn't work with the flow of the story.
right. So what did you think of, I guess, the girl's character? I mean, it's. I kind of felt like uh, she was trying to kind of act more immature than she actually was. Um, e- like I don't know, like I mean, I guess like when she was again like the example we were talking about, like when she was talking about the magazines that she read or something,
Hmm.
and like, oh, I didn't like this guy because of the way he looked, or
Hmm.
something. or about the appearance. I don't know. What did you make of her character? I guess. Did you like her? Did you feel like she was just an annoying brat complaining about?
No,
Mm,
honestly, it felt like uh, um, I do believe something that I don't know. When you're younger, you're a bit more unfiltered with your opinions, even if they, let's say, they are the wrong ones. You're a bit more. She's at one point she admitted herself that there is a sort of brazenness to herself. So I believe it's a believable character, and I believe at times we forgot how it was to be teenagers and having that kind of um, desire to judge everything and think we knew better, and then it was sort of a cope to a degree, like we were trying to hide the insecurity in us, and it was captured well in those chapters, in I mean that passages,
yeah,
if that the intent, and I think to a degree it was.
yeah. I kind of got the impression that like she's the kind of person who thinks violently but doesn't like and like or violently or in extremes but doesn't really act out that
Yeah,
way.
that
Huh?
seems also something that you can feel because she's what goes on in her head. She even seems to reluctantly admit it in more than one point that it's kind of either meaningless, like she won't be able to enact it.
I
It's
don't.
not
Yeah,
directly, but you get the feeling that it's like sort of a cope mechanism that
yeah,
she uses to go through her day.
yeah. I don't think that she outright says that it is like a just a pose, or does she? I think she
No,
does.
no.
Yeah,
Maybe in a few passages
yeah.
she concedes, she sort of half-heartedly admits to herself that it's just a way to deal with the situation. Being well, she seems to describe herself very often as like a person who's too weak and that cannot stand up for herself. So I think it's befitting of such a character to try and create all these kind of images in her head as a sort of fortress, and to put on a facade, like trying to hide her true self and all these raw emotions she uses as like to build to rise up a wall, which reminds me a little bit of what goes on in Pink Floyd's The Wall. It's a similar concept, even if, of course, different themes are explored in that album.
Hmm. By the way, I just found out sailor style school uniforms were popular in Japan in the 1930s. So yeah, so basically, she probably was wearing a sailor uniform, but
Mm.
probably not as revealing as those as you see in anime, of course. Uh, so, did you feel like there were things which happened which were like the sort of thing which would happen in like fiction or literary fiction, but not like it's not real. I don't know. For example, you know, I think that there's a passage where like she lies down on the way back from home or something. That could have happened,
Yes.
but still, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
most of the events are plausible enough. I don't think there is anything that it's unlikely to happen,
I
or something that you would say like, "Come on, this is just not something that a regular person would do on a daily basis," or something like this. Um, if it felt organic, it felt like you were really seeing like the daily life of a person of her age in that time frame in that country.
Right. I think the one big example of that, which kind of took me out of it, but um, because it was pretty blunt. Like it's like when the mother tells tells her the schoolgirl, we don't know their names, that um like when I see you, like I don't really feel happy. It would be better.
Yeah, honestly, there are a few things that are very similar to other works by Dazai. You can sort of, it feels like poetry. It rhymes to the one of the masters of the cinematography. But um, yeah, that maybe was one of the few parts where it felt a little bit forced. However, it wasn't too much to take me away from the experience, and I think it speaks more of either it, not knowing Japanese culture very much. Maybe this reflects more the author's own experience with his own mother. Maybe Dazai's mother had a very direct way to express uh, how she felt about him, and that wounded him, and he tried to exorcise that wound in some of his stories. Because then, even in the setting Sun and No Longer Human, this kind of harsh um, comments, like it's a sort of harshness that it's not out of a desire to hurt, but it's more like you these characters say these things without really thinking how the the other characters to whom they are expressing such opinions, how they are going to feel, which can happen. I'm not saying it's very common, but happens. You say something without thinking about it and you hurt someone because you were a bit too honest, a bit too direct with your opinions. That's why we need to filter them sometimes a little bit.
Right. So earlier you mentioned, I guess, things. Think like that. This is a good show of what a person in that time might have thought. So the reason why I brought up that video, that that anime video, whatever, um,
Hmm.
is because like that passage at the end, like it still applies to now. Like um, you could rewrite the story, and that bit still fits. Um,
Well, this is the power of good fiction. It transcends time. Maybe certain parts are a bit um, out of touch because things change. How
right.
many stories are about people looking for other people, and it takes a long time because there are no long flights like today, or there are no cell
Yeah.
phones, or
So I
that's
get.
something we need to keep in
Yeah.
mind. But the core of the story, I think, is still actual to a degree.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also like a short live action video, which I also put in the description, which, again is sort of like a modern uh, Japanese schoolgirl. Like, but there's no narration in that one.
Hmm.
It's it's called Schoolgirl by Osamu Dazai, and yeah. So obviously it's for that. So I guess things which would not still apply now would be like, for example, like when she talks about how in school there's this pretty teacher who, like, I don't know, she kind of praises her, but that she doesn't like her. I don't know. But anyway, that teacher is um
Patriotic.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
That would be, yeah. When I read that, I was like, "Gosh darn! I wish it were it were like this." Like she thought, this is so common nowadays. I was like, not really anymore.
Right, because I think in most places, I don't know, like teachers are left wing. I'm pretty sure in Japan that's the case.
The thing is, even if I do believe left wing nowadays it's completely against the idea of patriotism and ideals of that kind. However, if you look at some of them, um, especially in the 30s, 40s, many of them had patriotic desires as well, or at least they put on a veneer of being patriotic. For example, later on and I think that's a book that influenced a little bit the author. I think Dazai read the book himself and was influenced to a degree by it. They talk about, remember when we were talking about Kokoro and I said the same time there is a book with the same title in Italian. Well, they talk about this book in the short story Heart, which in Italian is Cuore. It was written by the Amicis. And it's a story. An interesting thing, Edmondo De Amicis, the author, he was born in my city, and he wrote this story in the late 1880s, and it's set during the unification of Italy, and it talks a lot about patriotism. However, um, the Amicis later became a socialist, and it was already influenced by left-wing ideologies. But because it was a patriotic story, it was even kept in fascist Italy because they saw the value of inciting the idea of the value of your fatherland and so on. And it was translated in Chinese and in other Asian languages. So probably that's why it's referenced here, because it's probably a book that I, to a degree, remembered.
I see. I see. Didn't know about that. So
So I do believe that being patriotic and being left wing, it's not impossible. It's just that the left wing, the more it moved towards its final goals, the more he had to abandon this idea of patriotism.
like I mean I imagine like that in places like Cuba uh, or Venezuela or whatever,
Hmm.
the teachers are still quote unquote patriotic. Um,
Yeah.
in oh China, I guess. I guess you can argue about whether they're a thing or not. Anyhow,
North Korea, it's pretty much it's a cult to the father of the nation. So yeah, I do believe when it comes to the old style of um, right-wing ideologies like socialism and communism, there is for sure a patriotic element, be it honest or just stapled on, just to try and sell the idea that they need to unify against an outside enemy.
hmm. In Japan, I think basically after the war, I mean even now, like when the Japanese because um like the Japanese government basically changed. I think they didn't actually did. Yeah, they did change textbooks to remove mentioning of. Um, I guess some things which the Japanese army may or may not have done. And the teachers' unions and stuff, they were usually in opposition to that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, another thing which I think came up early on in the story was that um, that she was already like worried about like becoming an old woman. Um,
Yeah, at the beginning she said that when she puts the foot on bed away, like she rolls it up and then she makes like a, a noise pretty much. What is it, tally hoop, something like.
yeah, Elihu or something. Yeah,
And she's like, she's disgusted with herself. She's like, it's like there is an old woman living in existing inside of me, which honestly, when you're younger, usually where you're way more critical of yourself. Not saying that it goes away, but you learn to accept some of your present and probably future flaws. You learn to bear them a bit better. But yeah, she's like, there is no hope for me. She's completely defeated at her own weakness in a sense. Or when she, and immediately after she starts to sing uh, a song from a movie, I think. And she's like, "Why I'm so fond of Mozart and Bach, and all of a sudden I sing this like low commoner song. What's wrong with me?" I
Yeah,
like these moments when they appear here and there because they feel. Uh, this is what makes it so authentic. Is the raw nature of her thoughts, like how they follow one another. The same thing happens when she gets on the train and she's like worried to look too intensely at the businessman list. One of them takes her home and
I mean,
forces her into a marriage. That one maybe it's a bit of a like she's just exaggerating for the
yeah,
sake, like she's exaggerating to herself just to make a story in her head because she's bored. And
yeah,
I like how the author portrays these small moments.
right. Like the businessmen are probably not thinking about her. They're just minding their
Uh,
own business.
it's
Um,
But I kind of like it even before when she was on the platform and she was like so worried of the reactions the of the people about to board the train.
yeah, the laborers there, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
she had to pass. Um, yeah. So another thing which I guess she talks, I guess which is kind of similar to this is that when she says that like she feels like um it's like she has done the same, she has been here before or something, uh like that the same thing has been happening over and over again,
Hmm.
or that I think when she's taking a bath and like she ends up looking at her hand without any reason, and she thinks
Hmm.
that one day in the future she feels like she
She
will
will do
come.
the same and recall these moments.
Yeah. Uh,
Felt again very real because I do recall having similar like sort of experiences when I was in high school and in middle school. So it felt real. I remember how many times I felt a sense of deja vu going home, walking the same streets over and over again, or a few times I would focus on an object on a table and stare at it for a long time without any real reason. Just it just felt like the right thing to do at the time. And what Dazai is describing here, it's very similar.
hmm.
And seeing it narrated through the eyes of the person experiencing it, it was quite interesting and well written.
Okay, so another thing which came up, I think, a few times was like, um, I guess like she's how like I don't know. I kind of feel like this is something to do more with children than with adults. Like I kind of feel like, oh, at least I don't know. Maybe that was just me, but like when I was a lot younger, like I I feel like children can have like an exaggerated feeling of disgust towards. Um, I mean, children are dirty, can be dirty, but like um, you know, uh, you know, for example, when the schoolgirl here sees the old woman, and she's
Oh
extremely
yes, on
disgusted.
the when she's going back, yeah, when she sees first a woman with a child that she describes with too much makeup and looking not right for her age, and then on the way back home she sees an old lady with a dirty. She's really appalled by the state of her kimono, especially how the neck is all dirty and how she looks like all disheveled with her hair tied with um like in a gaunty way, pretty much. She describes that her red hair they look like kept in place in a silly, like disgusting manner, and that she feels the need to almost whack her in the head. She's so disgusted by this person.
Like like I I guess it's sort of like how kids tend to be more disgusted by um ugliness in general, or like,
Hmm.
well, I don't know,
Well,
maybe it's
maybe
not.
when you're a child, you react a bit more vividly to certain experiences because you had very few of them compared to an adult that got at least used to a degree to ugliness, dirt, to uncleanness, and these kind of things. So her descriptions when it comes to these details and her own impurity and how she feels like so bad, and instead how she feels so good about flowers, for example. I like them because they made me think how, indeed, when you are younger, very often, not saying that when you're an adult, your raw emotions don't shine through once in a while, but usually they shine through for different reasons compared to when you were a child. I mean, that's how I feel about when I get really frustrated or disgusted or s- saddened by something compared to when it happened when I was younger.
So so I think it's when she's disgusted at one of these women or something, that she says that, like, she's too familiar familiar with the impurity found in women or something.
Hmm.
Do you, I don't understand what exactly she was w- talking about there. Did you have an idea? Like, felt a little bit vague. Um,
I think she's talking about how the war, how the male world perceives women, like the ideal woman, in contrast to how women really are, and because she knows she's a woman, she knows how it is. And probably it's because Dazai, he was already married at that time, if I recall right. So probably he had experienced also the bad side of womanhood in a sense in a marriage.
so it's one of the things which came up in some of the reviews, is that, I guess, some of them were comparing it to Catcher in the Rye. If you have read that, um,
No, sadly, it's a book I always promised myself I would read, but I haven't.
I see. Um, okay, what else is there to talk about? I guess. Do you think that the dogs? I think she has two dogs, and one of them is crippled, and the other isn't.
Hmm.
And she's, I don't know, like, she's mean to the crippled one, but then
Hmm.
but she feels sorry for it, or something. Uh,
Yeah, probably because she sees herself a little bit in in both of them. She describes both of them as stupid, but at the same time, I do believe she feels more for the crippled one, despite treating badly. Because I do believe it's like trying to say that, in a sense, she feels about herself the same way. And then she promises. Another interesting thing is she makes a few promises throughout the whole day. She keeps saying, I will do this, I will make sure to live my life this way, I will make sure to care for my mother fully from now on. Tomorrow I'll make sure to. take care of the dog better. So
Yeah,
and you have to wonder if
yeah,
she will keep the
I mean,
promise or
didn't she just do that because like the mother promised to give her a ticket to a movie or something? Uh,
yeah, she won in a sense. It seemed like she would have given the massage. She would have massaged her mother's shoulders no matter what. But like the mother is implying, it's like if you get a reward for a good job, you feel even better. The reward feels even more earned,
yeah, yeah. Um,
which is something that makes sense.
I
It's more enjoyable when you earn something
right.
rather than when it's given without any reason.
Yeah, the fathers in Dazai's novels all seem pretty useless for some reason.
And I
Yeah,
do believe it has to do with his own father, like because he was part of the house of peers, he had no time for his family, and then both his father and his mother died when he was relatively young. He was born in 1909, and I think his father died when he was like 14, 15, something like this. So
I see. I so the schoolgirl here, she seems to really love her dead father, but I don't think that it makes it exactly clear why she liked him, other than of course that because he was her father. Um, or can you recall
seems like
anything?
he was spending time with her. She describes how sometimes they went for walks together. They will go out and enjoy nature together.
Right, right. And apparently he was into books as well, I guess.
hmm
Because it mentions at some point how
Yeah, she says that pretty much never went outside for work. He was always studying, and it
and
was
yeah,
the
it,
mother pretty much kept
the social
the
stuff. Yeah.
household. Yeah, she was the one, the breadwinner of the family. And I think it's implied that the mother is probably one of those matchmakers that it was a job at the time. Later on, it became more like a side activity, but until that time, I do believe it was like there were people like appointed for that kind of job.
Do you think that the Ishidas deserved all that hate from from the schoolgirl?
Uh, not sure, honestly, but again, when you're younger, your emotions towards your parents can be like they always swing.
No, no.
Like thinking,
I mean not towards the parents, but I mean towards those guests which came at the end. Um,
uh,
yeah, because I mean they didn't really do anything that bad. They just
no, but
yeah.
it happens that you see someone and for whatever reason inside of you, they didn't do anything wrong. They even maybe the first time you saw them, they didn't say anything, but already in your guts, you say, I cannot stand these people for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, like because I, I, I kind of found it a bit funny, like when she just basically couldn't take the flattery, the fake flattery anymore because she didn't put any effort into the food.
Yeah, so
Uh,
she's like, actually, I just throw stuff randomly. There is nothing behind.
right, and of course they must know about it too. Um, so um, so another thing, the schoolgirl criticizes her mother for like being too friendly towards these people. But like at the same time, she also says that she herself can't like like not be polite around other people. Essentially, like what's the word that they used? Obsequiousness. Yeah,
Yes.
try like it basically trying to curry favor even when you don't really want to. Like
Hmm.
yeah, like almost instinctively, I guess. Um. So. So I recall that she said something like, "Oh, why couldn't I be a schoolgirl?" Or rather, like, didn't she say that maybe it would be better if she died, or maybe I'm just I'm just mistaking it because it's Dazai. Uh, did she say something like that it would be better if she died as a schoolgirl or something?
Yes, at one point she says something like about the fact that she doesn't want to become like these old women, that she would rather she's get seriously like get a serious illness and pretty much sweat out all the impurities and die pretty much cleaned of all her wickedness.
I see, I see. So it's the same impurity thing, or purity thing, I guess. Yeah, yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Like, if maybe, like, I can imagine that when she was younger, she might have looked forward to being an adult, but like, the moment, when it gets closer, then yeah, you might not like it.
Hmm.
uh,
Yes, the idealized view of adulthood seems to fade away.
um,
She's in that phase when she is realizing that being an adult is not is not that great. It's not all that it's propped up to be.
Um, I I think she mentions a couple of her friends as well.
Hmm.
Do
She mentions
yeah.
one friend
Okay.
that's like the daughter of a temple priest, and that she wants to pretty much take the role of being the wife of another priest because life will be easier that way. She seems a little bit of a um, rather a little bit like a fool, someone with very simple ideas and ideals.
Right. And I think that the schoolgirl says something like that because she's sort of a fool. Like her femininity is like at the maximum or something like that. Um,
Hmm.
if I remember correctly,
I think she says kind of the opposite, that it mars, it sort of ruins her femininity.
is it okay?
Yes, because one of the things that for the schoolgirl is the strength of women is the wisdom that they keep inside, in a sense, like something that the humility and obedience and wisdom that they keep inside. So this girl is a little bit too simple-minded to have this kind of secret wisdom that all true women should have.
I see. So okay.
There is also a mention there. I like how a few themes come back. Like there is the first time that the schoolgirl thinks about marriage is when she's in the carriage on the train. Then the second time is when with her friend they go to Hollywood. They say, and I think it's like a beauty parlor or something like this to get their hair done. She is disappointed, whereas her friend is like all excited. It's like I think I would like to wear my hair this way for my miyai, which is like the formal meeting before you arrange a wedding. And then the third time is later on when she's thinking about her future and how she will, no matter what happens, she will keep going and try her best. And I think there is a mention of being a wife in there as well.
Right. So,
It's like I like because some of these thoughts is like throughout the day when you think about something and comes back, either you think about it or someone brings up the same topic and you come back and think about it once more, even
did
like without wishing to think about
did
it.
did you feel like what she thought about marriage kind of changed, or was it the same?
She seemed conflicted, like that she was going to end up in, like she wouldn't be good enough to be a good wife. That would seem to be one of her concerns, and that she would, but that she would try and she will do her best, no matter what, if she ended up in such a situation.
Hmm. Uh, uh,
So again, her thoughts seem to fluctuate a little bit, but in a realistic way.
yeah, yeah. It's like, I mean, she says it herself that like she will read a book and then think that, oh, like I found the answer to life or something,
Hmm.
and then
Pick
uh,
up another book, and then there it is, the perfect truth of how to live my life.
right. So yeah, like she says, she says that she will act this way, but like her feelings keep on changing.
Hmm.
I think at right at the end, she says something like, "Oh, about women in the past or something." That they were like slaves or something, but
Yes. Hmm.
um,
That they were able to endure all of this because of that secret part of their femininity,
right.
and that there is something that she wishes to discover in herself.
Hmm.
Again, I think it's like this story. It's a reflection on how society sees, well, the society of that time saw women, and how it will feel to be in their shoes at a young age and thinking how you will have to live up to this image of womanhood.
Right.
So it makes sense that those are her thoughts over and over again.
So I see. So Enrico and Garrone were from
Hmm.
that thing called Heart. Was it a novel? I
Hmm.
think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a novel.
yeah.
The main protagonist is Enrico.
There were some other references as well, I think. And did you? So earlier on, they were talking about Belle de Joe. Oh, I don't know French. By somebody called,
Belle de Jour. Hmm.
yeah, by Joseph Kessel. What do you know what that's
That
about?
one I don't know.
Hmm.
That story I don't know much about.
Right. I don't know. Like, is this the sort of stuff that a schoolgirl would be reading? I guess a bookish schoolgirl might be. Um,
Probably.
and I don't know. Maybe things were different back then. I mean, they do talk about the movies. So they did have movies,
Hmm.
even here in the countryside, wherever they were. Um,
Well, it's outside. I'd say it's not really in the countryside,
I guess.
uh,
Don't they talk,
because they talk.
mm,
It's in on the outskirt of Tokyo. I'd say because they named Ochanomizu, which is an area of Tokyo.
I see. Because I guess the reason I got confused is because she talked about a girl up on a hill or something. Um, or maybe like she was just imagining they're like, oh, like I'm washing. I think she was doing the laundry or something, and like,
Yes, later on, it's towards the end of the story when she talks how in that moment in other parts of the country, in other parts of the world, there are other young girls doing their laundry and trying to hold up, like on what little hope, what little dreams they have for the future.
I see. Yeah, I tried to look up that film that she says she wanted to watch, the Barefoot Girl or something, but couldn't find anything about it.
Hmm,
Must have been a Japanese movie or something,
probably.
probably, or maybe it doesn't even exist.
No, seems like everything that's quoted, like or mentioned, does exist. So I'm pretty sure it must be something real. I just wonder, maybe it was something that was famous, like that was a hit in Japan, and no one else watched it outside of the Japan, outside of the country.
Oh, and at the end it says, "Good night, I'm Cinderella without her prince.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where to find me in Tokyo? You won't see me again." So yeah, she was in Tokyo, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, yeah, I don't know. I guess he just wanted to find a way to end it. So yeah, see, uh,
Well, the whole story there is like the sense of this girl feeling kinda lost between her own desires that she seems she doesn't really believe in, and the expectations of society around herself.
right, like I guess like she has some kind of vague ambition, but like she never says exactly for what.
Hmm.
Um,
She seems to not be sure as well. That's the thing. She looks. She has a lot of like desire. She wants something, but she's still unsure what she wants.
hmm. So one person she did say that she liked was Shin, her favorite relative who's blind.
Hmm.
So
Uh,
what did she like about him?
I do believe she was talking that being blind, it was so challenging that he was able to face everything. Like this, the style, in a sense, it was handled such a bad, such a bad hand by fate, so to say, and he had to play those cards anyway. And because he started from such a wretched point, in a sense, he immediately mustered the courage to do whatever he wanted to do. Whereas she seems to be saying that not me, it's not the same for me. I need to put extra effort because despite everything, I can see the world around me, and in my case, it's a limitation. It's a different kind of limitation compared to that of my cousin.
Hmm. So I guess could you already see signs in this about given that this is how Dazai's career began? Could you
Hmm?
already see signs about how it would end in this?
Yes, you can already sense the kind of um, themes and characters and the thought and the way he speaks about the truth, how he speaks about his view of God and beauty. A lot of these are already present in this short story,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
they
and
will be better expressed in later works, but you can already see them budding. They start to come up from the ground in this short story.
Yeah. You mentioned God, and like, yeah, she does mention. Can't exactly remember what, but she does say that, like, she finds the idea of a female Christ disgusting, but some I can't remember what she said about that. Um,
Also talks about how everyone is a liar, that there is no one who can speak the truth, and usually who speaks the truth is seen as an idiot. Those are things that are very similarly expressed in some of the characters in both the Setting Sun. It was the brother who had the same defeated view of humanity, and in No Longer Human, it was the main character who had the same feelings.
right. So by this time, you said that he had already left the communist movement, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm looking at the PDF, and yeah, like, he does call the guests who show up, the Imaidas, not Ishidas. But I don't know why I call them Ishidas. Um, I can't remember Japanese names. Um, I think he calls them petite bourgeoisie.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
She describes them like that, the kind of people who strike her as petit bourgeois.
so what would petite bourgeois mean?
It's the nowadays it's a word that lost most of its meaning. But I would describe the class of like lower middle class that they try to look like they are above their own level, that they feel the need to prove their worth by doing something more, something extra compared to the people who are just below them, and try to emulate those who are above them. There is this kind of pettiness that's something that it's commonly like one of the traits of these petit bourgeois. Even in Italian, there was a short story and then a movie that explore a little bit this idea of these people, that they need to prove that they are more, that they are worthy, even if maybe they have like I'm not saying that they are like farmers or something. They usually have a job that it's related to office work, something like this, but they need to make it look like they are making a difference, that they really are the ones who bring society forth and so on.
Hmm. Do
And
you?
so
Hmm.
they need to pat themselves on the back every
I mean,
few minutes.
do you mean like the kind of people who buy antique looking but really furniture, but really it's fake, just to look
Something like
rich?
this,
Yeah,
yes, or that they want to buy the latest watch or something like this, just to prove that, yeah, I've got the money,
yeah,
I'm worthy of my position, and I'm proving it by flashing my goods.
I see. So I guess Dazai, who comes, I guess, from I guess a genuinely bourgeois, I don't know what you would call it, I guess, background, is sort of looking down on. I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I do believe his father was a bit more than a petit bourgeois, because it was part of the House of Peer, which was a, not saying the greatest institution, but for sure he had some weight.
Yeah, and I imagine that, like, maybe because, like, he wasn't like at the highest place, but neither at the lowest. That means that he had to deal with, like, people immediately lower, who are like who kind of have like the worst characteristics of both the people above and the people below. Yeah,
Yeah, probably.
yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff which is like kind of casually talked about.
Yeah, yeah, which is why I really like that, because it makes you understand quite a lot about the characters and their backgrounds, but it's not like explicitly told. You can read a lot between the lines.
Yeah, for example, like here I see that she talks about Rococo, which I think is like a
Hmm.
really gaudy 18th or 17th, probably 18th century architecture, right? Or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, the Rococo was like, um, it came after the Baroque, so it was like the last death throes of Baroque, and it took all the most of the elements of it and tried to expand on them, but yeah, sometimes it can look a little bit jarring. I'm not the biggest fan of Baroque, but Rococo can be a bit too heavy on the eye.
yeah, I mean,
There are beautiful elements in it, I'm not saying. And I really like the evolution of certain elements, which later were taken and became what it was called Art Nouveau, and then led into Art Deco. So for sure there are good things, but very often it's a little bit too much, and because of how much is going on, instead of looking like beautiful or sumptuous, there is a sort of uh, cheapness. It's almost jejune when you look at it. You almost get it's a little bit like another movement that was called manierism, where everything was exaggerated after the let's say, I would say it was during the Renaissance. Towards the end of the Renaissance, there was this period where everything was exaggerated and it looks really jarring, almost uncanny. And sometimes it's the same with Rococo. And I like how she describes like her um,
and
cuisine as being Rococo, like with this mixture and the aesthetics and the color palette. And then she has to admit that it's actually not that.
yeah, yeah, I really found it funny because like at first like she was like talking herself up, but then
Yes.
she
And
has
then it
to
was like, nah, actually, it's not that good.
shit. Yeah. Uh, yeah. So yeah, she describes Rococo as a decorative style that was elaborate yet devoid of substance.
Mm,
Um, and then she says something weird, like she says something like genuine beauty is always meaningless without virtue, which is why I like Rococo.
hmm.
um, yeah, you do kind of get statements like that. Um,
Yeah, she seems very critical of herself,
um,
which, again, it's something that very often is common in teenagers to look at everything you do either as something amazing or something absolutely repulsive or unworthy of any praise or devoid of any value or
yeah.
virtue.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this comes right before the Imaida show up. So I don't know, like,
Hmm.
so she says that genuine beauty is always meaningless. That it doesn't have any substance. She says like, Heaven forbid if beauty were to have substance." But then when the Imaidas show up, who have no substance, then they are not beautiful, I guess.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess they're not beautiful or don't have any substance. Okay. Um, Anything else that you remember you wanted to talk about? I guess.
Um, I'm trying to think how because the thing is, I do believe it's a short story that's worth reading. And there are certain parts that, for example, I really like how there is an emphasis on the beauty of flowers, and at one point she even quotes the Bible when she says that their beauty indeed is above that of Solomon, which is a quote from the Gospels when Jesus rebukes, pretty much saying, "You don't need to worry too much about things. Look at the flowers in the field. Even in all its beauty, Solomon, I tell you, Solomon could not compare to them. And yet they are cut and they are burnt into the furnace." In a sense, it's like saying, no matter what, your value is not in your beauty. Your value is not, it's not the beauty itself that gives value to something. I think it's one of the themes that that the schoolgirl sees in her life, that she wants to detach her worth from what society wants to give as her worth, and wants to create her own sense of identity, and that's one of the struggles. So even her reflections uh, upon and about flowers have a little bit of this conflict going on in her life and in her own existence.
Yeah, I think like she says very simply that like she wants to live beautifully or something.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and the next thing when so she says I want to live beautifully, and the next paragraph is when I arrived home, mother was already with house guests.
Which is
Um,
which which represents very well our, and she even admits to herself earlier that she's scatterbrained, and that's something that when you are younger usually happens very often. You think one, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna change this aspect of my life, I'm not gonna think this way anymore, and then 5 minutes later you're back in the same.
right, right. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, yeah. I don't think we need to go over the whole thing. People can yeah. And by the way, there's an audiobook which
Mhm.
I didn't get the chance to listen to, unfortunately.
I
Uh,
listened to it and I was rereading and I was following along the book. There are a few mistakes here and there, but the lady reading it does a good job.
yeah, I think I'll put a link in the description to the audiobook as well, so that might be useful. But I mean, you can find it by just searching
Yes, it's
for
like,
Osam
I
Dazai's
think it's like
audiobook.
60 pages long. It's a very short story, but it's like the full day of this girl and how she, well, how she feels and how she's looking at the world around her, and in a sense she's reflecting about the broader state of her society and how her future will be influenced by it.
Right.
Schoolgirl.
Yeah, the audiobook is only
Waking
an
up.
hour and 25 minutes. Right. Um, yeah, and yeah, I think that about covers it. I guess a rating. How would you rate
I
this?
would say it's a solid 7.5. I would give it a 8 even,
Hmm.
because it's well written. And there are a lot of things going on that you can uh, ponder upon and make your own ideas, and it makes you really feel like you're seeing all the thoughts of a young girl as she goes through her day in that time frame, in that culture, which is admirable.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit hard for me because um, I find it a bit hard to like short stuff. Um, I know, I know. Because like I'm kind of like, when you start talking about it, and um, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's way more difficult to talk about a short story because a lot of it it's like it's not explicit. You need to extrapolate a lot of the background from the small details.
yeah,
But
yeah, exactly, and
the better an artist, the better is able a shorter story to a greater effect. And I think here um, Dazai does a really good job
right.
in
Um,
capturing the character and immersing you a point of view that is different from your own.
yeah. Basically, because it's short, it's asking more from you. Not in terms of, I guess, in terms of time, but I mean like, like thinking about it and looking at stuff outside of it, or stuff which is referenced in it.
Hmm.
Um, okay, and yeah, and the difficulty with giving a score is again that like when it's something short, um, even if it's bad, I think it's quite easier to give it a better score because there's not a lot of it to annoy you. Like like if something is bad and it's long as well, then or if something starts out good but becomes bad, and that's much easier to happen in something which is longer. Anyhow, back on topic.
So
Hmm,
yeah, for me,
a 7 or a 6, I would say. Yeah.
for you, 7 out of 6, 7.6.
No, a 7 or a 6. So I guess a 6.5. 6.5. Why not?
Okay.
Um,
Well, I think it's worth reading even just because it's so short. It's gonna take like you said, the audiobook is an hour and a half much, and I'm a slow reader and I was able to twice without any issue.
yeah. It's a bit like reading a blog post by some girl. I guess. Yeah, a little bit like that. Um, but it's better than that because obviously the person who wrote it knows how to write.
Hmm.
Um, and with that said, have you anything else to add, Kiasmo?
No, no, honestly, I think we said quite a lot. It was a story that was worth reading. I enjoyed it, and there were quite a few interesting points in it. So well worth it. Well worth its time.
Yeah. So thank you for listening, and yeah, next week we'll